Is it
How
just
are
you
you?
coming?
Hello, that's good. Yes, good evening.
Good evening as well. Yes, Yasser can't make it sadly, but
Okay.
hopefully should be covering everything.
Okay, good. All right. So, obviously we gave you the report.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I'm really just going to give the auditors a chance to talk to, their general findings. Again, I'm assuming you read the whole thing, right?
Yes,
Okay.
no, 3 or 4
So,
times.
okay. So the big thing for me is I don't need them to reiterate the whole thing. This
Yep.
really is more an opportunity for you to ask for clarification. And, obviously between the time that we did the report and the audit to today, especially for you, there's been a couple of, significant things, right?
Okay.
So, some things that we might have stated in the report, maybe they're no longer adequate. They're not adequate, relevant, right? Because of the changed circumstance. So mostly this is for you and us to ask questions. But I'm going to start off by asking Mark to kind of give you his overall thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've told everybody, I really did want the auditors to look at it, with no excuse about, oh, this is your first time. This is just like, look, this is what if I were to be an investor, I'm looking at your studio, these are kind of my concerns, right? Whether it's about the production on. So I've asked them just to be pretty frank, but if you have any questions, I mean, please feel free to interject. Okay.
All right.
All right. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, great. Well, firstly, I'm going to say the same to all the studios, and sort of Raymond said a little bit of that. But apologies if we come across as very blunt, either in the report or now. My objective when I came in was basically to look at it as if I was an investor with no emotion at all, and almost come in and say, almost pick you apart. And that doesn't sound good, but it's not meant to be negative. The whole objective of this is to find a way where we, the other mentors and everybody, can help you be successful. If every company is successful, we're all very happy. The last thing we want is for anything to go wrong or fail. But to that end, just means some of the statements were very blunt. Every studio has had different things, but we wanted to say that anything that had a feeling of, God, you could do this better, it'd be better, we were going to say. So that's all. I just want to open with, so sorry if anything came across as heavy-handed, but the intention was, to expose possible problems and help you find a way of fixing them. So I understand there are some news, so you'll wait till afterwards to tell me that. But I'm just going to go very briefly over the game, the marketing, and the company. Now,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the comments I've had on yourselves are, financial. My worry is always, the biggest thing for any game studio is cash flow. If you run out of cash, you die. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter how good your product is, how great your people are. If you run out of money and you can't pay your bills, you cease. So I'm a real pain in the ass when it comes to cash flow. Having been there myself, I know exactly how much it hurts. So one of the things that I think I'd said to you in the past was how do you put contingencies in place if the NEOM funds don't come in? Now, hopefully, I'm going to get some good news on that. I'll let you wait. You can leave me in suspense, but you've always got to put a contingency in place, because if your money runs out, it's all over. Now, with regard to the game itself, I did manage to get on it and have a little play with my joypad, but I do think a couple of things you really need to think in the game. First of all, you need to put keyboard in there just because it's a PC game. But in mobile games, there's a thing called the futui, which is the way you attract, the first few minutes of play. I still think you need some of that, where you pick up the game and it draws you in, it pulls you into what you've got to do. Because I know that you'd said that the game was fun. Once people actually started to play it and got involved in it, they really enjoyed it, but there was a resistance. So to me, that really is important for this game. But the thing that matters for the game is, and this is why I focus on finance and everything else, you're building a company. This is just your first game. And I know you know that. I know you've been put in this position as the CEO. So you're sort of catching up. But it's important to make sure that you have your cash flow takes into account if something doesn't work with this game. So that brought me to another bit, which I'll try not to take too much of what Christopher has said in the past, and maybe that will happen with others, is for me, this game is your way of betting your business in for the future. So make sure, think about, you were talking about early access. And I know there's been discussions on Next Fest, although less so from you guys. You've got to pick your timing on when you want to get it to market. And for me, and I know Christopher was very adamant on this, think about dropping your price. If you can get 100,000 or 200,000 or 300,000 people to buy your game and play it and enjoy it and report it, it will stand your company in much more good stead going on, because then you've got an existing user base. They've loved your games. You've made some money, maybe not quite as much, but as if you've been at $20, but you made money. And that really will help you when you go beyond the Saudi market. So, I mean, overall, it was, we have confidence as a business, you have a potential future. My biggest worry was making sure that your finances were okay to give you the time to get it right. So I did make one other note. So and it was bringing around to the marketing. You want to get your game in front of as many people as you can. You want to get it sold so that you get revenues coming in. Then you can start to build a proper cash flow that is real. Rather, cash flows are guesswork at the beginning because you're estimating how much you're going to make. And that really is it. You're building a business. You want to build a business that in 3 years and in 5 years you're still around, and you go, yeah, I know we had some hiccups, but we did it, and that's what we're here to help. So I mean, that's really it. That I know some of the studios I'll be talking to, there's more criticism. You guys have a product. It looks good, but you've got to get it in the hands of people, and you've got to survive. So that was it. It sounds like from you and seeing your face, there's a couple of things you want to tell us. I don't know if you want to tell us now or if you'll wait for Christopher to have a talk. But overall, you guys have potential. Make sure the finances have enough coverage so that things don't go wrong, and get that game so that you can build enough users, you can get enough sales. Obviously you can't do Next Fest and early access together. You have to do it Next Fest first. But your game, maybe early access is the better thing. And I know that was your plan, so I'd love to hear where you're going, and then rather than me just reiterate what's already been written in our docs, and see if we can answer anything. But otherwise,
What about you, Christopher?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, Anas, while things are fresh in your mind, um, if you have questions for Mark, go for it, and then I can follow in. I don't want to
Right.
interrupt the flow because I think we'll have some similar things. I'll try and stay away from the stuff that Mark discussed. Maybe a tiny bit of overlap, but if you want to ask questions now, go for it. If not, I can hop in.
I think it's better to collect them all. I've been taking notes off to
Okay.
the side here, so I can come back to them.
Okay, I look, and I apologize that we didn't have a one-on-one. I was able to speak with some of the mentors, and I just the timeline was tight. So I really do apologize about that. But I have been thinking a lot about everybody's case and some of the things you're going through. So I have the comments coupled with some thoughts and suggestions, and it could be that in between the time I've done the audit that you've already made some of these changes, and already taken on some of these suggestions, because some of the stuff that in keeping in mind that Joseph made a pretty comprehensive data room that I was able to go through, and the mentors were quite good about sort of giving me additional insights and answering some questions. But again, I apologize I didn't discuss directly. Now, from what it looks like, you've had some tough times on the marketing side, And I think, with any studio, um, when you get to a point of getting your product live and getting your product into the marketplace and starting to try and find those communities and these sorts of things, the one thing you want to do from the very start is really identify who you want to target, really have an understand of where some of those specific communities are, where you might find the best cohorts to drive ads and these sorts of things. And sometimes just you doing really small test campaigns around the world through Google Ads or some of these other things to just sort of see what comes through and start gathering some data on the back of that. Because I did note, I did note, and this came across everything, that you utilized an external firm, which isn't a bad thing, but the important thing about utilizing external firms, regardless, even if it's, I need engineers, I'm going to use engineers over here. I need a marketing team, I'm going to use a marketing team externally, is really clearly defining what the needs are and what the specific KPIs you need them to meet. And it sounds like maybe that wasn't clarified at the very start. And look, a lot of us, uh, especially in building games, it can get really, really difficult, and you get so hyper focused on making sure the game is in good shape that having the additional energy to put into sort of driving what those specific things are when you're ready for your commercial release, it can seem very exhausting, and you just kind of want to hand it off. But that's, it's getting yourself in a frame of mind, especially as the leader, to go, okay, team's clear on direction for the product, and I need to take that out of my mind, put that to the side, have less check-ins with them because they will carry on. Now you train your mind entirely onto what sort of that commercial roadmap is going to look like, and especially predefining those things. And that's really sort of what I was trying to underpin in my feedback to you, was that marketing isn't something that you can easily outsource. Marketing is something where you have to have that real pairing between the passion and knowing of what your game is, who the audience is you're trying to target, um, and even having an innate understanding of where some of those communities are, how you may want to roll it out. That's one aspect. The other aspect, and this is underpinning what Mark said, and I know I didn't want to recover that, but I think this is critical in today's marketplace, is that getting the product into the hands of consumers. I hear, and we all in the games industry have been down that road of thinking, okay, it needs to be better, it needs to be better, it needs to be better. But the one thing I learned from my Finnish friends, and I appreciate them for their bluntness, is that, and this goes back to 2012, being at a Game Developers Association meeting in Helsinki. I was talking about game design with some of the people there and saying, oh yeah, and this is what Miniclip is working on, and this is what we know the market's going to like, and so we're working on fine tuning the animations and the graphics and all this stuff. And one of them said to me, he goes, well, what good is that going to do you? Because what do you know the consumer is actually going to like by the time you get that game out? And I say, well, we've had a lot of experience making these games and we've had success. And he said, it doesn't matter, because in 6 months' time, consumer sentiment can change one way or the other. And if you don't get it out there and start to see how they're handling it, you may be very surprised at what happens. So this is always a critical thing you need to keep in your mind as you go along, even if it's going out there for a premium game. and just taking that vertical slice and doing it in some sort of semi-closed environment with, you know, play test cloud or something like that, where you're getting live gamers there to play with a level, right? And that's going to give you volumes of information on what's working and what isn't working. You could even prototype several levels and see directionally how that might work, and that works for a premium game as much as for a free-to-play game too. And obviously, with the free-to-play game, you know, once you have that MVP, you know, you can start getting that out there as a technical soft launch and iterating, and then being able to kill stuff as you go along. And these are the critical things. But you know, the one thing I would suggest to you take a look at in relation to marketing, because I know this is an area that's fairly important to you, at least from what I've read. You know, I would go out and have chats with companies like Saga, who have these AI agent technologies that are very interesting. They're still early stage, but you know, considering you're a company that's finding your feet and you have the luxury of being able to experiment a little bit. But with the AI agents, what's really interesting about that, and what I'm finding some of these companies are utilizing it for, is they're taking some of the characters from the game, they're putting in the personalities, the voice types, and all these other things. And the AI then is able to go out and find these different communities, feed it bespoke content and these sorts of things. And it's super cost effective. And some of these companies want to experiment. They would even invest a bit to try and leverage it. But, you know, and I'm not saying that's the end all be all, and I'm not saying definitely go down that path. What I am saying is look at those different, let's say, more creative solutions to try and help you solve a problem, like maybe not having depth in marketing expertise.
What was the name of that service?
Saga is the name of the company, and
Interesting.
I'll
take a look at that.
I'll get the URL. Yeah, no, and they do AI agents. There are other companies out there too, and even Anas, and I'll be saying this to the other studios, and this is in terms of your burn rate. I've talked to several friends who have indie studios, let's call them, and they're making very good games and very interesting games. And they're all utilizing Pulze, Pulze.ai. It's not so much to drive development as much as it is to, for example, utilizing that is saving them a ton of time on things like code review, because that AI can go in, do the code review, document it. When it finds these bugs and things like that, you're able to go in, it goes in and does the corrections, makes the updates to the documentation, and you know, you're saving quite a bit of time on how you're coding that. But anyway, that's all I have to say.
I think if you can send that stuff.
Yeah,
Anas,
I'll send it to you, Ray, for sure. But yeah.
yeah.
And I think you know, real quick, do you know Rick Neal? He's a
Me?
really good friend of mine. He was with EA, he was with Amazon Studios.
Okay.
He's based in Portland, Oregon. He's got a big, or no, actually, sorry, I take that back. He's in your neck of the woods. He's up in Seattle now. And I'll have to introduce you guys, but his studio, they're making phenomenal games, and they've been able to leverage this Pulse quite effectively.
From Noctuna Interactive?
Huh?
Noctuna Interactive?
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Nocturne?
Noctua.
Yeah.
Noctua.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reach out to Dan. He seems
So-
to be like a mutual. So
Yeah, well, if you want an introduction there, I'll be happy to make
Yeah.
one. But they're
Awesome.
good guys. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Manas, what was your overall impression? Like, having looked at the report, did you feel it was kind of on point? Was there anything that you didn't really understand that we can hit on really quickly?
I think the main thing is really hitting down on the punching the nail in for the things that I felt were kind of buzzing in the back of my mind, but I couldn't like put a pin on it. Maybe the biggest surprise for me. Now, of course, I understand your point of view, and I take it wholeheartedly. Uh, and I understand the logic behind all of your arguments. And why is that taking external consultation, relying a bit more heavily than other people in the program probably, is because of this. Like, I'm still feeling it's been like I'm not used to this. I'm not like a business manager, so I realize my own shortcomings in the field. So I am uh, as much as possible, if I can get someone who is, whenever I can get someone who is buying into the vision of the company, this goes to my business developer or the finance firm that I'm contacting, who I have personal contacts with, is that if I can if I find people who are buying into my vision and like are very excited to have a leg in the game, want to push this industry forward, I will rely heavily on them because I want to learn from them at the end of the day. Abbas has been phenomenal on my business developer because he's been pushing me in directions that I'm not comfortable in because I need to learn a lot of stuff. Things with budget breakdowns, things with risk management, taking up courses, taking up communicating with a lot of our peer connections, and even like doing the pitch deck. I'm doing my own pitch deck, but I told him, listen, man, I know you have your own network, so you do your own pitch deck, and you're obviously comfortable with it, and then I'll take a look at it and see what kind of things I can incorporate, and I can learn from it and just align each other together so that we have a united front. So, but I still like understand it's like it. I'm taking this as an opportunity to improve myself, not really relying on them because they're not gonna run my company. He's only here for like 6 months and then he's gonna leave. So when the day comes, is that I already told them I don't think that we will be continuing forward after the 6 months if I really take a route and like hit the ground running and take all the learnings because I want him to be helping other people. I don't want him in my company. Is that I'm gonna need to build my own probably Saudi people who are much more highly invested in the vision and the industry. And at the end of the day, they become the key personnel who will drive the company forward. Uh, but yeah, that's my main focus is that how much can I rely on these people to work them as hard as possible and then learn from them.
Yeah. Yeah, and circumstance can always change, right? At the end of
Yeah.
6 months, you're going to see where you are, and you might decide, okay, well, maybe I still want you involved, but in a slightly different role or a slightly different level of frequency. And
It could be a board member, right?
Yeah.
Like I can put him in on a board and like I really recognize his input and his uh, point of view and be like you're gonna be as there as a consultant or a decision maker, but you're not gonna be as involved.
That's a really great point because that's something we're actually going to be talking to all the studios about. We really believe that you should have somebody as an advisor or on the board who has experience that you can go to with questions and stuff. And that's absolutely one of the things we're going to talk about at the next boot camp. So that's excellent that you're heading in that direction. I mean, so why don't you just quickly can you update the auditors? I mean, you just did your test,
Yes.
and I think this is really interesting for them to hear.
All right, let's go from the top down, the way I usually do. Feelings. Well, I understand that some of my peers might have felt uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna have personal relationship with every person who looks into my company. So having you hit down on the nails is really important for me, and I appreciate your candor. The cash flow problem. Yes, I do realize I've been doing the cash flow, as I said, like I've redone it 3, 4, 5 times, and it's very unstable, but it's stable enough that I can move forward. But since then, I've already like onboarded expedited the current partner, the Saudi partner, to at the start they were accountants, just like data entry and stuff. Now I'm saying, okay, guys, I'm really struggling here. I'm gonna bring you in as financial more to be more involved in the process, and I can get an RFQ from you. You already know my business. You already know my company. Let's talk. I talked with their CEO, and that's my main direction. And then on the other side, Abbas is like, okay, I have my own contacts. Great. I had a meeting just today with them at the 12 p.m. At noon, and I'm getting another quotation that will help me orient myself because, as everyone knows, finance and accountants are a dime a dozen, and everyone know it's not a new thing. But the main thing is that I want to have the perspective of having different people quote me, but then I'm trying to have this Saudi partner really buy into my company as like, okay, this is what I'm seeing from other people. Can you match that? And I really want to go with you because you're my preferred contact. Because on the but at the end of the day, if we don't match, well, I'll get someone else, and then start building the processes in my company to hire a lot of people, hire like at least one financial person who will take lead forward. That's just touching a little bit on it. Let's see, the first few minutes of play, yeah. The demo was really about the full cycle. I do understand that it's a very mobile way and like very simple way to just uh, how does the person within the first 1 hour or 2 hour not refund the game because that's this is the hook that should be pulling them in and staying in. What we have done is that with the help of Raymond thing, I'm really appreciating him. We just finished our first official playtesting group. We have received the results today by email, and I have a meeting on Wednesday to really discuss what they have been finding these people are saying, and I'm bringing the producer to listen and the designer so they can really understand what the players are seeing. And I'm planning for this to be like a regular thing. This is also one of the things that we're thinking of in the company is that yes, Azuma is already like set on the floor, like has the the plan laid out, and it's hard to change at this point. We might shift a little bit, maybe put more focus on the game for the demo or something, but it's hard to pivot right now. But we're looking at the next product and reinvesting what we have is something like a lot of people are having fun with the story. How can we make a different business model using the same systems? Premium doesn't seem to be working out so far. So how about like an episodal thing, like the other games the before us have done? The big company that came out with episodal game content didn't pan out, but other companies are still doing it. Uh, like uh, so there is a niche for that, and it's helping me put the product onto the market quickly, like you said, and so that I don't build a whole game. I just build the first experience, and people are buying in to this long full length of story, and I can pivot immediately. It's like, okay, these people are like choosing scenario A in the ending. How about we put more focus there, and just and work with the development team so that it works alongside the consumers. Uh, this is why a big thing for our company is putting in these technologies that are gonna be long term, so that we can have a plug and play kind of systems that we can use in our games. Because of our like software oriented background, we already think of modality and all of these things, so that I don't want to build the whole building from the ground up every time. I can just put a blueprint and start putting prefab or like what do you call it, pre-built components, and at the end, and then I'm using my designer to really come up with creative things, and we'll innovate, just like this one, with like a new business model or a new mechanic or something else, which is the Supergiant model that we love to follow. And I hope that we will be able to follow up and really invest in our talent to find like to have them grow with the company and be and use them as the the superheroes of the game. It's like, oh, this game is very successful because they have a really good designer, a really good voice actor within the people within the company, and that's why they and we use them in the right place and with the right product so that they can shine.
Real quick,
Yeah.
with all the learnings you have and the assets you've created and the tools you've created from developing a couple games, uh, have you thought about taking some of that and maybe doing some smaller prototypes of different variations and just putting it into a live environment and just testing that and seeing out of those prototypes where you get the most engagement or longest play times and some of these sorts of things. I mean, it's not going to be a lot of people, but in the very least, it would allow you to sort of test and iterate a little bit.
Well, that is one way to go about it, which will really heavily depend on how much community we can build around ourselves, so that I don't have to invest in someone else to bring me all these people to play. And I'm trying to integrate myself into all the local communities here, and seeing whatever the meet up with all the developers, so that these people are already buying in, which is why us participating in as many events as possible has been helpful, because we're trying to get to the consumer and show them our game. It's like so far, so that we have some feedback. It's of course worse than releasing on the mobile, which you can control the market, but at least I can have a face-to-face playtesting session with people who will say their feedback right there to my face.
I just wanted to ask a question in there. It is good that you're trying to get people to try your games. A bit of advice I would give, and I don't know if this is what you're doing, is when you're doing that, you want to almost to listen to what they do not say. Look at how they react to the game. If there's different prototypes, because you're going to see, if you tell somebody what to do, they'll do it in a certain way. Whereas a regular customer who's never met you, doesn't know you, downloads the game, they're going to do something. And the reason I say that is, I've had the same argument a long time ago with my teams on it was one particular game that was an amazing game and everybody loved it. But 100% of the people that tried to play the game that hadn't been shown what to do did the exact opposite of what we, the design team, expected them to do. And neither was right or wrong, but the reality was the players all did something different than we wanted them to do. So we had no choice. We had to change it so that people enjoyed the game and got into it. Because I know in mobile and everything else, people talk about the Fatui, which is the first time user experience, so the first few minutes of play. But I've always had the philosophy that you have about 30 seconds to a minute to lose a player. If they don't start and actually engage very quickly in any game, it dies. At that point, they get bored, and getting somebody back is really hard. And maybe that's a little bit cynical, but having been brought in, obviously, to do an audit when I don't know any of you, I've not worked with any of you at all during the year, and I've only had very brief conversations. That it's that sort of stuff that I think, copying what Christopher said, but you need to get feedback of what people actually do, rather than what you think they might do, because it's not always the same thing. And then you can double down, as you're saying, on adjusting your game and bringing new stuff in, because you know how people are reacting to what you've actually done rather than what you think you've done.
You remind me of what I don't know, was it Raymond or Whitman who said, I'm not going to ship myself with the game. They're going to have their hands on the game, and
Yes.
I need to be looking at what they're doing. So that's
Yeah.
something I've also heard someone else say is that I've been taking to heart is I'm not watching them play. I'm watching how they like my game. My eyes are not on the screen. That my eyes are on the player whose hand is in the game, like holding the controller.
And you saw
Like,
that in the playtest, right? The report.
Mhm.
It talked
Yeah.
about like the players were smiling at this point. The players were like, I mean, that's really good, right? So I
That's great to
need
hear.
to wrap things up, guys, because we've got the next group. But just really quickly, you know, for me, you saw in the report, you know, on the last part, I kind of identified the third payment approval, right? So just overall on us, I think you guys are in pretty good shape, right? The number one thing, resolving the financial forecasting stuff, and you can see Nusrat has dropped in here.
Mhm.
That's something you still need to focus on. So,
Yep.
you know,
So I've already like formulated an action plan with
Good.
Abbas, and our main priority, which I said is like, surely there's a lot of rooms of improvement, but the easy win that I can get as soon as possible with the biggest impact is the finances.
Yeah.
So
So-
that's why I'm expediting with the company. I'm calling them every day,
Yep.
and be like, and also getting the other finance person so that I can have a different perspective.
yeah. So I think, you know, I know that effort's being made, so I'm not too concerned about that. And I know Nusrat will crack the whip over you. The whole marketing execution, I don't think you talked to everybody about your wish list burst that you got. But, you know, and I kind of need to wrap things up here. But the bottom line is they did bring in another marketing support element, and they went from 400 wish lists to how many?
Closing to 15,000 now.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
So
And I
Nice
think,
one.
yeah,
And
if you look at the data, I thought was really interesting is the numbers that you got from North America.
North America and Russia, yes. Actually, our partner was surprised because they expected this to happen over 2 weeks. It happened in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
So I'm really
nice.
wanna. I really now they were like rushing along and getting all things worked up. But now I can at least take a breather and really evaluate the current state of the marketing and not be in a constant rush.
But it is interesting, you know, a lot of the comments that you got back from the feedback. So and Mark and Christopher, I did email it to you so that you can.
Yeah, I
take a
just
look.
seen it come in. I haven't read
But-
it yet.
So
honestly.
you've got that burst on wish list. Now you're going to have to deliver on the product, right? And there's clearly issues that you have to address. But you know, again, I think you're on the right track. The strategic balance, right, with external contractors. So the bottom line, just to wrap it up, is you're hitting all of these things. So that's good. What I would want back from you over the next few days is just confirm each of these items, what you're doing, right? You know, this report was submitted to NEOM as well, and they also got it today. But you know, I think you're heading in the right direction. If you need any, like as you're going through it, if there are any other questions, I do invite you to email. You're still welcome to email the auditors if there's any clarification that you need. But obviously, you want to try and get it done sooner than later. And you know, it's a big step. I think, you know, we obviously have a studio here that is really floundering. You guys have been at this this is not like your first year. You've been fighting this for a long time, and even to yeah, and even to the degree where I had to insist that we change the CEO. And I think as time's going on, I think you are proving that that was the right move. You know, that putting the people in the right position. You know, it's not a demotion. It's actually to the benefit of your studio and everybody that's in it. So I congratulate you guys. I think, you know, there's still a lot of heavy work ahead of you. The game is going to need a lot of work to deliver on what, you know, the players I think are going to be expecting. But you know what? It's another big step forward. I'm really happy for you guys. So I'm going to let you go, and you know, please follow up on us if there's any other questions. Otherwise, get back to work.
Will do. I'll send an
See you
email
on
soon.
Thursday, Anas.
See you soon.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Anis. And that was great to hear about your wish list. That's a nice jump.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just make it
Well done.
NEOM is celebrating on us.
Well,
When I did my report with I'll let you go, but when I did my report with him, I said, okay, we're gonna finish the meeting on a high note. I said, Ash, right? How many Joseph said, okay, they started at 400. What do you think? Guess. I'll give you 3 guesses where their wish list is. So Maxim says 1,000. And so Joseph was like, no, it's a little bit more than that. And then the other
a
person,
tiny bit more.
yeah, because 5,000. And I'm like, oh, you're getting close. I said, not. And then Maxim he goes, I'm just gonna go crazy. I'm just gonna be ridiculous. I'm gonna say 10,000. I'm like, no. Basically 14,400, and everybody, like, their jaws were like, what the F happened here? And great. So that is a huge, that's a, it's a great sign. And I just encourage it's you now know it's not easy to do this. But what I'm always thankful for is when you do have moments like this, there's a result of the work. It's awesome.
Yeah, they're a nice sort of reward and showing you.
And I hope that builds your momentum, right? It motivates the team, it drives you. And I would only say, like, wouldn't it have been nice if a lot of that stuff that Christina had asked you guys to do earlier on, you guys had started earlier on? Imagine, right? So, but it's a lesson learned, and I think where you are now is great. So thanks a lot for coming on us.
Thank you.
Wish the team the best, okay?
Well, Ash is the dark horse coming from behind, right?
That's okay.